Hello and welcome. You're with the news on Times Now. I'm Padmaja Joshi. Our lead story, in fact, is one on which many have dropped the ball. The hijab hearing that is ongoing over the last 8 days in the Karnataka High Court. There have been voluminous arguments from both sides over the last 8 days that may have confused you on what is happening. The big story right now is that the hijab hearing is at a critical stage. The verdict is likely any day now because the Chief Justice himself has said that within this week they want to finish the hearing and deliver the verdict on this particular case. All the arguments have boiled down to 5 central points that we are going to distill on Times Now. Let's go to the main graphics of the 5 main arguments that are important right now, which the court is looking at. These 5 main arguments are that the hijab is banned nowhere in the country. Can we please play those graphics? The first point is that the hijab is not banned anywhere in the country, but it cannot be deemed compulsory. The second point is that institutional discipline is paramount. So you cannot insist on wearing a hijab where there is a uniform. The third point is that calling hijab essential will force women into wearing it. Then they will be bereft of choice. How can something which on one hand is being called an essential practice, on the other hand, then be termed a choice? Also, the state government has argued that there should be no judicial intervention because if there is a judicial verdict on the issue of hijab, then it will become compulsory. The example was given of France, where hijab has been banned in public places, yet Islam did not cease to exist. So to say that the practice of Islam is incumbent on the wearing of hijab is a flawed argument. Wherever there is a uniform prescribed, institutional discipline will be paramount. So here, in fact, is the hypocrisy that has been called out. On the one hand, people are saying that hijab is essential practice of Islam. On the other, they are saying that it's a choice of the women. How is what is being branded essential practice of Islam then be called a choice of women wearing it? Radhika is joining us live. Radhika, in fact, the protests have continued, but there are a number of girls now who are themselves realizing that institutional discipline is ultimately more important than what is being called an essential practice.
That's right. That's what most of the students that we spoke to are actually reiterating now, or rather coming to speak about now. In fact, we saw a lot of resistance in the last couple of days, but it is now that students are realizing, or rather they are coming to terms with the fact that institutional discipline is more important. Rules have to be complied with, and therefore they do not mind taking off the hijab just before entering the classrooms or exam halls. Because I did go to a couple of colleges, from Yelanka College to Jyoti Nivas College, where students, where there were different setups, arrangements made for students to take off the hijab and then attend the classrooms. And when I spoke to these students, they said that yes, they are ready to do that because that's what the rule states. They want to prioritize education over religion. But at the same time, there was a few students who said that they're not very comfortable with it. They're not used to it because they've been used to, wear it all throughout. So therefore, that comfort factor is something that they do not have at the moment. They yet to get used to. But currently, many students coming to terms with it. They're stating that yes, education is more important. They're ready to abide by the rules. And some of them even saying that since the matter is sub judice, they will wait for the High Court verdict to come. Until that time, they would like to attend institutions. And there are students, of course, they've abandoned the institutions altogether. So it is sort of a mixed signal that we're getting across colleges from these students. But many people, many of these students coming to terms, or rather ready to abide by the rules and, letting go of the hijab just before entering the colleges, entering those classrooms or exam halls.
Let's take this across. And again, the central argument. Deshratan Nigam, senior lawyer, is joining us along with Amana Begum Ansari. Deshratan Nigam, very important now that it's all boiled down to this. How can something that is being called an essential practice of Islam also be a choice? Either it's essential or it's a choice.
Absolutely, Padmaja. In fact, if you recall, all kinds of arguments are being addressed in the court, but only question which has been referred to the larger bench is whether hijab is an essential practice of Islam. Other things have been dealing. Other things will remain with the single bench. So this particular aspect is to be addressed by everybody. Now, something which is in which you have a choice, something which is optional cannot be compulsory, as was argued. And something which is not compulsory cannot be obligatory. Once it is not obligatory, it cannot be essential. So this is the chain that can be built. And therefore...
So is it essential or is it optional? Is it the woman's choice or is it essential in Islam?
It is women's choice and institutional right will prevail over your...
No, just a second, sir. Let's hear Ms. Ansari also. Yes. Which one of the two is it?
Yeah. It is not the essential part. Even if you read the Islamic scholar Wahiduddin, he has specifically mentioned that it is a cultural cloth. It has nothing to do with the Islamic cloth. Plus, let me tell you, this is not about even the women's choice. Anything which society to wear or the way to conduct, it can't be a choice of women. It is the brainwashing and it is a patriarchal conditional choices. And the people, I am very surprised, the people who call themselves feminist, liberal, progressive, they are actually promoting and glorifying these patriarchal norms with the argument of choice. This can't be a choice, right? Because society expects us to hide our identity with this religious cloth, because they think if we wear this kind of cloth, we will incite the man in somehow. If you see, this is a form of victim blaming. And I'm surprised how the liberals and the progressive people can call it the choice.
All right.
At the same time...
So is this then a hypocrisy, Deshratan Nigam, that what is being foisted? Let me actually read out what the advocate for the schools said in court. They said there is one cultural practice and then there is a religious practice. There are women in the South who wear a Mangal Sutra. That is a cultural practice. Can that be made essential in religion? And then women will say everywhere that we are going to wear Mangal Sutra, even if you are in the army, even if you are supposed to be in uniform, but their Mangal Sutra and Sindoor will be prominently displayed. That distinction, Deshratan Nigam, is very importantly being set out now. What is cultural and what is religious?
Yes, certainly, Padmaja. If you look at the practices that the Hindu society or the larger Sanatan society has, we have only Saptapadi, which is an essential part of marriage. Everything else is cultural and varies from place to place. And many people do not put Sindoor, many people put Sindoor, and all those have become, over a period of time, cultural practices of the community. Now, as far as Islam is concerned, everything is codified. In Hinduism, nothing is codified for the people except, Saptapadi. Now, if you look at Saudi Arabia, after a lot of discussions, where hijab was mandatory at one point of time, has done away with it, considering it as not being essential. And a lot of other reforms are also going on in Saudi Arabia, which were brought in by Maulvis and clergy and so-called hypocrite Islamic scholars. Now, those things are changing. Algiers has banned it. Morocco has banned hijab. So there are so many things out there. But the fact remains, Quran is supreme for Muslims. There is no doubt about it. But their hijab means curtain. The word hijab has been used in the sense of curtain between Prophet Muhammad's wife and the visitor's area. And the rest, they get confused with jilbab and khimar and everything, which has no relationship with, the head scarf and to cover your head or something. Now, what is happening today is another hypocrisy. If you look at some of the brainwashed girls which are there on the streets, in the name of so-called hijab, they've covered their entire body.
Okay.
So the game plan which is going on is something else. So PFI and CFI, what they are doing,
you know, we'll
is
come to
going
that political thing. We'll come to the politics in just a second. The problem is that so far there has been so much conflation that has happened, choice, politics, essential practice, that it's all got muddled together. But what we are trying to make very distinct over here is that there are very specific arguments that have now been made. One, you either have to decide whether you are going to call it the choice of women, or are you going to insist that it's an essential religious practice? Second, if it's an essential religious practice, is it supreme to everything else? If there is an institutional discipline, is that going to be subsumed by essential religious practice? In fact, let me again quote to you what was said inside court. If there is a person going on a scooter and suddenly there is time for offering prayers, 5 times Muslim is supposed to pray. Now, can that person on a scooter, it was argued in court, stop in the middle of the road and say, I'm going to offer prayer here? Is his choice or his religious practice, Deshatan Nigam, over and above, say, the traffic rules?
No, certainly not. If the argument which is being, paraded in the court, if it is followed in toto or believed, then this is a sure shot recipe of chaos and anarchy. There will be no discipline on the roads. There will be no traffic movement, and we are seeing in some of the places where namaz is being offered on the roads, and when the entire traffic is brought to home. All these things have to start. Please remember, national interest, institutional interest, and our is also supreme.
Okay, so let me put that question to Ifra Jan. Ifra Jan, today the court is going to hear arguments, and in a few days they are going to decide whether hijab is essential or it is a choice. What is it for you? Is it essential for you or is it a choice?
Okay, I hope I'll be allowed to speak without being interrupted. Number one, some things can be essential to religion and they still can be a choice. For example, puja is essential to Hindu religion, but that does not mean if somebody puts a gun to Hindu or normal Hindu's head and says कि puja karni hi karni.
Ma'am, puja is not essential.
A thing can be essential.
Puja is not essential. That is the whole point.
Then what?
It is not essential. It is cultural.
I said repeatedly, do
but
not
ma'am, since you made that comparison, let me clear it at the outset. It is not essential. Nobody is arguing that I need to do puja because today is Tuesday, so I will sit in school and now I'm going to do a puja.
Please
it is
allow
not.
me to speak. I have repeatedly said that I cannot really talk like this, you know.
But ma'am, you cannot speak on behalf of puja and make claims which are untrue.
I cannot really be
okay,
speak
finish
like
your
this
point.
when
Finish
I'm
your point.
constantly
Yes, go on.
So there are many practices that are essential to, let's suppose, Hinduism, but not all Hindus go and carry them. For example, let's come to Islam. Namaz, for example, is essential to Islam. Does not mean that somebody puts a gun to my head every morning and says you have to do namaz. It's still a choice I have whether I want to do it or I don't want to do it. In fact, most of the Muslims I know don't do namaz, even though namaz is fundamental to Islam. So how much religion you choose to imbibe in your life always remains a choice. That is the point here. Some things can be essential to religion, but they can be a choice.
Now I want to ask you a specific question. You are wearing a hijab. Is it for you an essential part of religion or a choice?
You see, I am not answerable to why I'm wearing a hijab. To me, it's a choice and I'm not answerable. I will not ask you why you wear a bindi some days. You wear
so it's
a bindi.
A choice,
I
right?
don't have the courage to ask you why do you wear a bindi.
You are obviously not answerable. You are not answerable to anyone.
Who are you to ask me? Who are you to ask me this question? Why am I supposed to answer to you what I'm wearing? Why I'm wearing my hair loose?
Nobody is
why
stopping
I'm wearing
you,
a
ma'am.
skirt, you know?
Nobody is stopping you. We're just trying to reach an understanding of whether hijab is a choice or essential. So it's a choice,
I have
right?
constantly told you, I don't know why you're not able to understand a basic point. A thing can be essential to religion, and how much religion you choose to imbibe in your life can be and remains a choice.
So here's the thing, ma'am. According to the English dictionary, what is essential cannot be a choice. And what is a choice cannot be made essential.
Not.
Because they are literally synonyms. Essential is the opposite of choice. Breathing oxygen is essential. It cannot be a choice.
Not able to understand something as basic as this. I know many Muslims who don't do namaz. In fact, most Muslims don't do namaz.
So it's a choice.
Are you saying they're not Muslims? Okay, so now namaz is not essential to Islam. It's now a choice.
You said it.
I know many Muslims who do not go to
You
Hajj.
said that it's a choice.
Many Muslims do not go to Hajj. What does that mean?
Because
is
it's a
Hajj
choice.
not an essential part of Islam? No, you are not able to understand something as basic that something can be essential to religion and a person can choose to follow whatever he wants to from the religion. Like, why can you not understand something as basic as this?
I am unable to understand. Maybe Amna Begum Ansari will be better placed because I am going by the definition in English. Can what is essential be a choice, Amna?
Go by common sense.
Okay, the thing is that why we are having this debate, it is choice or the essential, because there are some girls who are arguing this is the essential, and if this is essential means that every woman who is not wearing the hijab and burqa is not following the Islam properly. First thing is that. So hijab and burqa, it is a cultural dress. It is not the Islamic dress. Let me reiterate that. Second, the point is that even if it is your essential practice or the optional practice, can it overpass, can it suppress the law of institutions? Because the Article 25, which we Muslims keep talking about, gives you right to propagate your religion, also says it is under the subject of morality, public law order and the state interest. So here should be the discussion कि अगर ये essential practice है भी तो क्या ये essential practice institution के law को rule को
That is the second question. First, I am sorry if I am sounding repetitive, but we start at the basic question that what is essential cannot be choice, and what is choice cannot be essential by its very definition. If Rajan, now let me quote to you another example which was brought in court. I quote, praying 5 times a day is prescribed in Islam for Muslims. We respect it. Suppose I am riding a scooter and there is a mosque and there is azan. Should I stop in the middle of the road and start praying? If Rajan.
Yes. Number one, when we go to, instead of coming up with these random scenarios, maybe we need to understand what's happening on ground.
Ma'am, I'm asking you a very specific question based on a very specific scenario. No, I mean, I'm asking you a very pointed question.
Come up with a good question, not hypothetical.
It's a good question because it was posed in the Karnataka High Court.
It's a hypothetical questions. Let me respond.
With due respect, ma'am, most of the apprehensions right now are all hypothetical. People are on the street saying hijab has been banned. There is no ban.
Speaking over me.
90% of the protest is based on hypothetical situations.
You are constantly speaking over me, Padmajaji, and this is not how I can speak. You're constantly
Ifraji, I am asking you a very specific question which was posed in the Karnataka High Court and would greatly appreciate if you responded to it. Praying 5 times a day is prescribed in Islam for Muslims. We respect it. Suppose I am riding a scooter and there is a mosque and there is azan. Should I stop in the middle of the road and start praying?
Absolutely not, because that infringes the fundamental rights of other people. However, I do not understand how me wearing a headscarf right now is infringing your right or any of the panelists' right here. That is the moot point of the whole debate. That a girl wearing a headscarf does not infringe. I cannot speak like this. I cannot really speak like this. A girl wearing a headscarf, whether she wears a headscarf in the school or whether I wear a headscarf here, I am not infringing on the fundamental rights of any of the other panelists unless you are a bigot who gets triggered by a Muslim symbolism. That's the moot point. And the second point that was raised is that under Article 25, there are certain restrictions which include public morality, health, and public order. Except that when this question was just a point.
Okay. Now let me just jump in for a second. We are having a perfectly reasonable factual debate here. So just like I'm not allowing anyone to say you are wearing it because you are a fundamentalist. I think it's very unfair for you to brand anyone who's bringing up the law and say that you cannot be opposed because unless you are a bigot. So please, let's not get into this broad stroke name calling. It benefits no one.
A headscarf. How is me wearing a headscarf infringing on the fundamental rights of anybody sitting here? That is number one.
I'll tell you.
How is me wearing a headscarf?
Six courts in the country have disallowed Muslim men and women from sporting beard, cap and headscarf. Were those courts bigots? Because according to you, the only opposition is from bigots. Were the courts bigots?
No. Please, I did not say that. I said you asked me a question saying that if somebody stops in the middle of a car, in the middle of a road because there is a mosque there, I said that cannot be comparable because their fundamental rights of other people are being violated. How is it that me wearing a headscarf violates anybody's fundamental rights here? That's the question I asked. The second question I also asked is, how is me wearing a headscarf affecting, number one, public morality, number two, public order, number three, public health, which are the restrictions under Article 25. This was a question also asked in the court.
Ma'am, again, I started this show by saying that there is a constant shifting of goalposts. There is only one point that you left out, that of institutional discipline. You said, where is it affecting public morality? It's not. But here, the binary is of institutional discipline, which is paramount.
Give me a second. I'll respond to that also. You said institutional discipline. Well, we have seen no school in Karnataka serves onion and garlics in its midday meals because there is religion already in schools. I have gone to schools and colleges and I've seen both Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs wearing religious markers, including kalava, bindi, tilak. Including in my college, I saw some girls wear a Mangal Sutra and a tilak, which is perfectly okay. And this was also argued in the schools. There's already religion in schools. You just want to keep one symbol, Muslim symbol out.
You know, we will answer to that. Mr. Mohan Krishna will answer to that. I'm taking a very quick break. There's a very simple answer to that. And since you gave a personal example, let me tell you that all of this is subject to the rules of the school. I have been to schools where I was made to cut the kalava because the uniform said so. Now, you can either stand on your own rights and say, I will wear the kalava because this is what my religion demands. But the uniform said, sorry, that's not going to happen. I'm going to take a very quick break. The court hearing is going to begin anytime now. Back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.